Imagine being one of the most promising voices in alternative music, only to vanish almost overnight. Poe, a trailblazing artist who blended rock, hip-hop, and haunting storytelling, was silenced for a decade. But the truth behind her disappearance isn't just shocking, it's a tale of betrayal, power, and resilience that will likely leave you speechless. Before we get started, be sure to hit the bell notification icon and put all notifications on. I hear from a lot of my subscribers that they don't even get notifications when I post my videos. I would greatly appreciate if you guys did that. Anne Danielewski, known professionally as Poe, was born on March 23, 1968. Her early life was shaped by her father, Tad Danielewski, an esteemed lecturer and award-winning documentary filmmaker known for his works such as 1962's No Exit and 1965's Guide. It was this artistic household that later influenced both Poe and her brother Mark, who went on to become a successful author. Let's get the obvious question out of the way. Where does the name Poe even come from? She told the Sacramento Bee that she was a fan of writer Edgar Allan Poe. She added that when she was 10, she went to a costume party dressed as the Plague from the Edgar Allan Poe The Mask of Red Death. She added, "A friend of my mom's called me the next day and she asked for Poe." Her family was really into nicknames, so the name just stuck. Due to her father's job, her family moved around a lot, living in places like Africa, India, Spain, and of course America. Her father had been hired by Brigham Young University to help build their filmmaking department. He didn't want to raise his kids in New York, so at this point in time it was a choice between Utah or taking a job at Ohio State University. He worked at Brigham Young University from 1975 to 1989. Poe told the Salt Lake Tribune, "My brother and I were 2 of 6 non-Mormons in the school of 1600. It was a gorgeous place, but the school bus Mormons took one look at my Sex Pistols t-shirt and hated my guts." Poe's influences were pretty eclectic and not just limited to punk, as she was into Billie Holiday, Bob Dylan, A Tribe Called Quest, as well as Brian Eno. She added, "I'm interested in combining different parts of different cultures because I saw so many different cultures as a kid. I feel like I have so many different personalities."
That small cafe. How does it feel to be? Lots of loving and it ain't nothing nice. Relax yourself, he said. It ain't nothing nice. Through the day, as if on an ocean.
Poe's parents ended up divorcing, and it hit her pretty hard. In fact, her mother soon abandoned the family. Poe legally emancipated herself from her parents at the age of 16 and moved out east to New York City. She ended up squatting in an apartment with other kids who came from difficult backgrounds. Her place had no electricity, no water, heat, or telephone. She made illegal subway tokens and started selling them for 25 cents a piece. She remarked to the Kenosha News, "We were all kids from unhappy homes. It was totally cool, totally organized, and totally drug-free." It was during this period she got her high school diploma through correspondence, and she also got into hip-hop, attending divey clubs. She soon bought herself a sampler, and this was before hip-hop had gotten big and before MTV had Yo MTV Raps. Poe was fascinated with the ability to make records for cheap, so literally for 2 years she spent time writing her own songs on an 8-track recorder with her sampler. Surprisingly though, given her circumstances, she was later accepted into Princeton on a full scholarship. She admitted in several interviews that it wasn't because she was super smart, but rather because the institution felt pity for her. It was in Princeton she played in a rock band, and it was here where the seeds were planted for her debut record, Hello. She told the Daily Utah Chronicle what she loved about Princeton, remarking, "There was a full music studio I could use. There were theaters, film editing. I went crazy. That's when I started getting into the technological computer stuff." She ended up graduating from Princeton with an English degree, but she knew that music was her calling. Her unique sound blended multiple genres, including alternative rock, pop, and electronic music. Particularly noteworthy were her early collaborations with Jay Dilla of Slum Village, which actually helped her develop her distinct sound that incorporated elements of hip-hop with other genres.
That deep and primal yearning, I feel it burn.
But she always had one rule, telling the Springfield News Leader, "If you can't play a song on acoustic guitar or piano or a finger snap, your production has gone too far." It was following school she moved to Los Angeles to be with her seriously ill father, who was battling prostate cancer. The song Fly Away from her first album is actually written about him.
Fly, fly away, I won't stand.
It was the music that she'd been working on up until this point that got the attention of Atlantic Records, who only took one meeting with her and ultimately signed her to their imprint Modern Records. Poe's debut album, titled Hello, was released in 1995, and it immediately established her as a unique voice in the alternative music scene. Musically, the album was described as a sample-rich amalgam of hip-hop, rock, and jazz. The title track was about a new burgeoning technology that the public was quickly using by the mid-90s, the internet.
Word has it on the wire that you don't know who you are. Well, if you could.
Poe remarked about the song, "The first time I surfed the internet, it was almost a disturbing experience. You know, you're talking to somebody real on the other line, but you can't see them, and you have no idea if they're telling the truth, and you might not be telling the truth." The song peaked at number 13 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart, and it topped the US Hot Dance Club Play chart as well.
How do I reach you?
The album received significant critical acclaim, with Hits magazine calling it an over-the-top pop masterpiece. The album's commercial performance was bolstered by several other singles, including Angry Johnny, which received substantial radio and MTV airplay as her debut single in the fall of '95. Angry Johnny peaked at number 7 on the Billboard Modern Rock Tracks chart. Poe had another modest hit with Trigger Happy Jack, which peaked at number 27 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart. The song's venomous lyrics saw a lot of comparisons to Canadian rocker Alanis Morissette. Poe told the Boston Globe that the song was actually inspired by a real incident that happened to her while she was in LA. A guy tried to carjack her by running her off the road and waving a gun at her. She thankfully got away unhurt, but she saw how the incident seemed similar to a relationship that she was in at the time. The event left her shaken and angry for days, obviously, admitting though how she was hoping that someone would try that on her again, adding, "Violence breeds violence." The story doesn't end there, though. She was escorted home by a police officer who had ulterior motives. For the next 2 months, he'd park his cruiser in the driveway of Poe's home. Every time the lights came up the driveway, she remarked, "I would dive into my roommate's room and deadbolt the lock." He'd walk outside around the house with a flashlight. The music video for the song even features Guns N' Roses drummer Matt Sorum, who also played drums on the song Beautiful Girl.
Your eyes are mockingbirds inside a gilded cage.
The album, for its part, peaked at number 71 on the Hot 100 chart and was certified gold.
I can do it anytime or place. I can do it like an angel.
By January of 1996, the New York Times had already recognized Poe's significance, naming her alongside Alanis Morissette as one of the defining voices of a musical movement featuring articulate and sexually explicit female artists who rejected self-pity and refused to define themselves purely in terms of their connection to men. Other publications referred to them as angry young women who rock. They also highlighted several other artists who were popular during this time, like Tracy Bonham, and then not too long after this, Meredith Brooks.
I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother. Yeah, that I might get hurt. Would I try?
This early critical recognition positioned Poe as part of a new important shift in how women were represented in alternative music. With the advent of the internet, she also started writing sci-fi stories and posting them on her website. Poe was instrumental in pioneering direct artist-to-fan connections online. Her website and fan sites that supported her early in her career predated modern social networking platforms and were amongst the first of their kind. Even Poe's superfans sprouted up, and they'd be referred to as angry psychos, a tip of the hat to the song Angry Johnny and Trigger Happy Jack. Poe began her first major tour in January of '96, opening for Lenny Kravitz. She later opened for the alternative rock group 7 Mary 3, whose song Cumbersome you might remember from back in the day. As part of the promotion for the album, she later graduated to a headliner. After years of touring and creative development, Poe released her second album titled Haunted in the year 2000. The album represented a deeply personal artistic statement that was intertwined with family connections in a pretty remarkable way. Maybe it was given that being named Poe, she would make an album that centered around dialogue with the deceased. While working on the album, Poe discovered cassette tapes that contained her late father's voice. Incorporating these recordings into her music proved emotionally challenging. She remarked, "I took these tapes home and I couldn't listen to them. It was too hard, so I kept finding ways to avoid it. They were sitting on my coffee table next to a boombox." Eventually, though, she found the courage to integrate these recordings into her second album, creating a powerful dialogue between past and present. Poe had a difficult relationship with her dad. He was from Poland and he was in a concentration camp during World War II. She recalled how her dad was, and I quote, "a wounded, paranoid individual. It prevented him from connecting in a fatherly way." Haunted also featured a unique creative collaboration with her brother Mark. Mark's postmodern novel House of Leaves served as a sort of companion book to the album. The CD and book were released simultaneously, and the siblings actually toured together across America at Borders Books and music locations to support both works. This innovative cross-media collaboration represented a groundbreaking approach to storytelling across different artistic mediums. Poe remarked how herself and her brother wrote about the same events, but from different perspectives. The record's lead single, Hey Pretty, got some traction on radio, but getting stations to play it proved to be difficult. Alternative radio by this point in time was playing very few female artists following a post-Lilith Fair backlash. Poe told MTV, "Radio was not interested. I called a few program directors and they said, we really love the record, but we're not playing women." This one program director in Portland, citing 94.7 KNRK, said, "My station is basically in the same boat. Do some crazy mix that you think will fit this format and I'll play it once." So Poe decided to get her brother to read a piece of his book in the song, and it finally started to get traction. It ended up peaking at number 13 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart and number 30 on the Adult Top 40 chart.
About then, I know it didn't really matter. She wasn't listening. She just yanked up on the emergency brake, dropped her seat back, and told me
The album, for its part, peaked at number 115 on the charts, but it never achieved a gold certification. Part of this was due to the fact that the record never got the promotional push of her first album. We'll talk more about this in a bit. Poe remarked how the album had a positive impact on her mother as it helped her acknowledge everything she'd put her family through. The album did get some good reviews, while others like Rolling Stone wrote blistering critiques of the record, but it didn't bother Poe, who stated at the time, "I said to myself, I just spent 3 years conquering the greatest critic I will ever know, and that was my father." So then most people never really heard from Poe for almost a decade. So what happened? She told Stereogum, "What I would say in a nutshell, myself as an artist was purchased as if a slave by a Texas oilman. I have not gone a day without doing music. I've just done it anonymously. It's not like I haven't been playing. I've been playing parties and this and that, but anything that was way under the radar. I lived like an illegal immigrant for 10 years. So Atlantic Records by the new millennium had signed Poe to a new 3-album deal. Things were looking up for the artist, but then she hit a wall. So Poe had originally been signed to Atlantic in 1995 through Stevie Nicks' record label Modern Records. In 2000, Time Warner, which was Atlantic Records' parent company, merged with AOL. With the merger, there was pressure to show positive financial results. So immediately, the company started looking at every aspect of itself, including Modern Records and Atlantic. Atlantic soon severed its relationship with Modern Records, and Poe lost her contract. This was while the promotion of her second album was still ongoing. In fact, she was on the verge of releasing promo CDs of her next single, Wild, and she'd already sent them to radio. Poe's record label sold its interest in her and her future recordings to a guy named Robert M. Edsel, a wealthy oil executive. The questionable deal resulted in Poe losing control over her musical career and being unable to release any new music or perform professionally. Poe found herself embroiled in a legal battle that lasted nearly a decade. During this time, she was essentially under a musical gag order, unable to release music under her own name. Any music she did release during this period was done under the pseudonym Jane. The legal dispute centered around issues with her contract and representation. Poe ended up suing on the grounds that she'd been represented by an unlicensed agency, arguing that the agreement should be void. After years of court battles, the Labor Commission of California eventually ruled in her favor, allowing her to regain rights to her own music. The legal ordeal had had a profound impact on Poe, as you can imagine, effectively halting the momentum she'd built up in her career. She ended up returning to the stage in 2014 for 5 shows at the Sayers Club in Los Angeles. In 2023, she announced she'd be releasing the song This Road for the upcoming video game Alan Wake 2. The song appeared on the game's official soundtrack, although it was separated into 4 tracks. In September of 2014, Poe received the title of UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador after being invited by Yoko Ono to participate in a UNICEF campaign. Most recently, on October 1st, 2024, Poe once again posted a cryptic teaser video for her YouTube channel titled I, in which she appears to be saying, "I went missing in 2001. I barely noticed, but you knew. You could feel it. My symptoms were abstract. Most notable among them was my ability to utilize the word." That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Story sticker.